Marcus Hale was 36 years old, and until that cold afternoon in early December 2024, he believed his marriage was bulletproof. He was an operations supervisor for a logistics company in Dallas, pulling in about $58,000 a year, steady work, predictable hours, nothing glamorous. For 7 years, he'd been married to Vanessa, a woman he thought he understood completely. That week, Marcus made a decision that felt romantic in the moment, but would expose a truth so devastating it would redefine everything he thought he knew about loyalty, ambition, and the woman who shared his bed every night. He decided to surprise his wife on her business trip to Chicago. Before we continue, if this story already feels familiar, like the video and subscribe. And when it's over, leave a comment, because your perspective matters more than you think. Let's dive deep into the story. Vanessa worked as a corporate communications manager for Stratton Global Consulting, a multinational firm that specialized in high-stakes crisis management and brand positioning for Fortune 500 companies. She'd been climbing fast, relentlessly fast, traveling constantly for client emergencies and leadership summits. Her salary had hit $112,000 annually, with performance bonuses that could add another $20,000 to $25,000. Marcus had never once felt threatened by the fact that she nearly doubled his income. He'd supported every midnight conference call, every weekend strategy session, every business trip that pulled her away from their modest 2-bedroom apartment in the Bishop Arts District. Their marriage had seemed solid, unshakable even. They had dinner together when Vanessa was in town, cooked elaborate meals while debating politics and sharing wine. They talked about buying a house soon, maybe starting a family in another year or two when things settled down in her company. They'd spent last summer repainting the apartment together, arguing playfully about whether the accent wall should be charcoal or navy, eventually choosing charcoal because Vanessa said it matched her professional aesthetic. Marcus thought they were building something permanent, something that mattered. If stories about betrayal, truth, and consequences speak to you, like the video and subscribe now. And as you listen, drop a comment later telling us whether you would have stayed silent or confronted the truth. Let's dive deep into the story. Marcus and Vanessa met in the spring of 2017 at a networking mixer neither had wanted to attend. Marcus had just been promoted to assistant operations supervisor at Redline Logistics. Vanessa was working at a small PR firm, managing social media accounts for local businesses. They'd bonded over overpriced cocktails and mutual disdain for forced networking, then spent 2 hours talking about their careers, their frustrations, their ambitions. Their first real date was an art gallery opening with free wine and questionable installations. Vanessa had stood in front of a piece that was literally just a red square and said, "I think this is lazy," loud enough that nearby patrons looked scandalized. Marcus had fallen for her a little in that moment. Not because she was right about the art, but because she was unafraid to state her opinion. They moved deliberately, but fast. Within a year, Marcus was shopping for engagement rings. He proposed at the Fort Worth Botanic Garden on a Saturday afternoon in October, in front of the Japanese Garden's meditation pond. She'd said yes before he finished his rehearsed speech, tears streaming down her face. They were married the following June in a small ceremony at a winery in Fredericksburg. 75 guests, a string trio, wildflowers everywhere. They'd written their own vows. Marcus had promised to support her dreams, even when they scared him, to be her constant in an unpredictable world, to choose her every day, even when it wasn't easy. Vanessa had promised to choose him every day, to build a partnership rooted in honesty and mutual respect, to never let ambition come before the life they were building together. Standing in front of their friends and family, Marcus had believed every word. The first 5 years of their marriage were exactly what Marcus had hoped for. Not perfect, but real. Vanessa left her small PR firm to join Stratton Global Consulting, a move that doubled her salary and put her on a completely different trajectory. She thrived there, managing crisis communications for Fortune 500 companies. Within 4 years, she was traveling constantly, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, and earning $112,000 plus substantial bonuses. Marcus was proud of her. Genuinely, unreservedly proud. He never felt diminished by her success or threatened by the fact that she out-earned him significantly. When Vanessa was home, they made the most of it. Elaborate dinners, weekend mornings reading the New York Times in bed, evenings walking their neighborhood, debating politics. When she was gone, Marcus settled into comfortable routines. He didn't resent her absences. He understood that her career required sacrifice. On their 5th anniversary, they'd taken a long weekend to Santa Fe. One evening, walking through the historic plaza, Vanessa had stopped and turned to Marcus. "I know I'm gone a lot," she'd said, "but everything I'm building for us. This isn't just about me. It's about creating a life where we have options." Marcus had pulled her close. "I know, and I'm with you. Always." He meant it. Adrian Cole entered their lives about 18 months before the Chicago trip. Vanessa had been assigned to a major pharmaceutical account, and Adrian was the regional director overseeing it. "He's brilliant," Vanessa had told Marcus over dinner. "Stanford MBA. He sees angles nobody else sees. He's already taught me more about executive strategy in 2 weeks than I learned in 2 years." Marcus had been glad to hear it. Over the following months, Adrian's name appeared more frequently. Adrian had praised her work. Adrian thought she was ready for promotion. Adrian had invited her to a strategy workshop in New York. Marcus met Adrian once at Stratton's holiday party in December 2023. Adrian was polished, confident, charismatic, probably 42 or 43, fit, wearing a Tom Ford suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. He drove a leased Mercedes E-Class. "You must be Marcus," Adrian had said, shaking his hand firmly. "Vanessa talks about you constantly. She's one of the most talented communicators I've worked with in years. She's going places, and I'm making sure of it." Adrian's wife, Catherine, was there too, an elegant corporate attorney who showed Marcus photos of their 2 daughters. Marcus had left that party thinking Adrian seemed like exactly the kind of mentor Vanessa needed. Looking back later, Marcus would realize how carefully constructed that impression had been. The Chicago Leadership Summit had been on Vanessa's calendar for 6 weeks. 3 days of strategy sessions, executive presentations, networking dinners. Vanessa was scheduled to present a crisis response framework she'd developed. "Adrian thinks this could be my breakout moment," she told Marcus while rehearsing in their living room. The week before the trip, Vanessa had been distracted. Her phone buzzed constantly. She'd take calls in the bedroom with the door closed. "Just work stuff," she'd explained. "There's a lot riding on this summit." Tuesday morning, Vanessa left at 5:30 a.m., dressed in a sharp navy pantsuit, her Toomey carry-on packed. 3 days, she'd said, kissing him goodbye. "I'll be back Friday evening." "Love you," Marcus had called as she drove away. Knocking dead. He trusted her. Completely. Without reservation. That trust is what nearly destroyed him. Wednesday evening, Marcus came home to an empty apartment at 6:30 p.m. His phone buzzed at 7:47 p.m., a notification from his bank. Direct deposit received, $2,800. The year-end performance bonus. Most years, Redline gave modest bonuses, usually a few $100s. $2,800 was significant. Marcus's mind immediately went to Vanessa. She'd been so stressed, so consumed by work. When was the last time they'd done something spontaneous? What if he flew to Chicago? What if he surprised her after her presentations, took her to dinner, reminded her they were still partners? He opened Google Flights. United flight leaving Thursday at 3:40 p.m., arriving at O'Hare at 6:15 p.m. round trip, $420. He booked it. He made a reservation at Prime and Provisions, an upscale steakhouse Vanessa had mentioned wanting to try. 8 p.m. Thursday. He ordered 24 white roses, Vanessa's favorite, for delivery to himself at the hotel. Marcus packed an overnight bag, his best dress shirt, dark jeans, cologne, a sport coat. He set 3 alarms, paranoid about oversleeping. As he lay in bed that night, Marcus imagined Vanessa's face when he knocked on her hotel room door. The shock, the delight, maybe tears of happiness. He imagined dinner overlooking the Chicago River, reconnecting in a way that reminded them why they'd chosen this partnership. It felt like the kind of spontaneous gesture that stories are made of. Marcus fell asleep smiling, anticipating the moment his plan would come together. He had no idea he was about to discover that his entire marriage was a carefully constructed performance, that the woman he'd trusted completely had been lying to him for months, that the romantic gesture he was planning would transform him from a husband into something else entirely, a man with evidence, a strategy, and nothing left to lose. She didn't know he was coming, and by the time she realized what she'd lost, it would already be too late. Marcus boards his Thursday afternoon flight to Chicago, imagining Vanessa's delighted surprise, completely unaware that in less than 4 hours, he'll be standing outside room 1412 hearing the sounds that will shatter his entire world. Thursday afternoon arrived with unseasonable warmth for December in Dallas. Marcus left Redline at 2 p.m., telling his supervisor the family situation had been resolved, but he'd appreciate the afternoon off anyway. He drove to DFW Airport with his overnight bag in the passenger seat and butterflies in his stomach. The good kind, the anticipation kind. The airport was crowded with holiday travelers, families heading somewhere for early Christmas celebrations, business travelers like him navigating security checkpoints with practiced efficiency. Marcus made it through TSA by 3 p.m., bought an overpriced bottle of water, and found his gate with 30 minutes to spare. He sat in the boarding area watching planes take off through the terminal windows, his mind drifting through memories. 7 years of marriage. Almost 8 years since they'd met at that networking mixer where neither had wanted to be. He remembered Vanessa approaching his table, that confident smile, the way she'd challenged him about corporate culture and ambition. He remembered their first kiss under a streetlight, tasting lime and cilantro. He remembered proposing at the Botanic Garden, how she'd said yes before he finished speaking. Why did he trust her so completely? The question surprised him. He'd never really examined it before. But sitting in gate 27, waiting to board flight 1847 to Chicago, Marcus realized his trust wasn't blind faith. It was built on evidence. 7 years of evidence. Vanessa had never given him a reason to doubt her. She was ambitious, yes, relentlessly so, but she'd always been honest about her goals. She worked hard, traveled constantly, climbed the corporate ladder with determination that sometimes exhausted him just watching it. But she'd never lied to him, never hidden anything, never given him cause to question whether she was where she said she was, doing what she said she was doing. Their marriage wasn't perfect. Whose was? But it was solid, built on mutual respect, shared goals, genuine partnership. Vanessa's success didn't threaten him because he knew she saw it as their success. Everything she built for both of them. The gate agent called for boarding. Marcus grabbed his bag and joined the queue, excitement building again. In less than 3 hours, he'd be knocking on her hotel room door. He could already see her face, the shock, the laugh, the way she'd pull him inside and call him ridiculous and sweet and spontaneous. The flight was smooth, uneventful. Marcus had a window seat in row 18. He tried reading the in-flight magazine, but couldn't focus. Instead, he stared out at the clouds below, imagining the evening ahead. Dinner at Prime and Provisions. Walking along the Chicago River, despite the cold. Maybe they'd find a jazz club, have drinks, talk about something other than work for once. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we've begun our descent into Chicago O'Hare. Current temperature is 34 degrees, skies are clear. We should be on the ground in about 15 minutes. Marcus's heart rate picked up. This was really happening. O'Hare was massive, bustling, overwhelming. Marcus followed the crowds to baggage claim, even though he only had his carry-on, then out to ground transportation. The December air hit him like a slap. Cold, sharp, nothing like Dallas's mild winter. He pulled up the Uber app, request a ride. A black Honda Civic arrived 7 minutes later. The driver was a middle-aged woman named Patricia who spent the 20-minute drive talking about Chicago's restaurant scene. Marcus nodded politely, only half listening, watching the city lights blur past the window as they navigated evening traffic toward downtown. The Millennium Hotel appeared like something from a different world. Sleek glass architecture rising 40 stories, towering over the Chicago River, illuminated against the darkening sky. The circular drive was busy with luxury vehicles, Mercedes, BMWs, a Tesla, a Porsche, where valets in crisp uniforms moved with choreographed efficiency. Marcus paid the Uber driver, grabbed his bag, and approached the entrance. Revolving doors, marble floors. The lobby was all contemporary elegance. High ceilings, modern art installations, leather furniture arranged in intimate seating areas. A massive chandelier, made of geometric glass shapes, hung from the ceiling like frozen lightning. Soft piano music played from somewhere Marcus couldn't identify. The air smelled expensive, subtle cologne, fresh flowers, money. He felt immediately out of place. Everyone around him looked like they belonged here. Men in tailored suits, talking on phones about mergers and acquisitions. Women in designer business attire walking with the confidence of people accustomed to luxury hotels. Marcus glanced down at his sport coat, his khakis, his carry-on bag that suddenly looked cheap and worn. But he was here for Vanessa. That's what mattered. He approached the front desk, where a young woman with a professional smile and a name tag reading Jennifer looked up from her computer. "Good evening, sir. Checking in?" "Actually, I'm here to surprise my wife," Marcus said, unable to suppress his smile. "Vanessa Hale. She's staying here for a conference. I believe she's in room 1412. Jennifer's fingers moved across her keyboard. Marcus watched her face, noticed the subtle shift in her expression, confusion flickering across her features, then something like discomfort. "I see Mrs. Hale checked in Tuesday," Jennifer said carefully, her tone becoming more measured. "But sir, hotel policy requires that I verify." "I'm her husband," Marcus interrupted, pulling out his driver's license and opening his phone to show a photo. Their anniversary dinner last year, both of them smiling at the camera. "Same last name, same address. I'm surprising her." Jennifer studied the photo, glanced at his ID, then looked back at her computer screen. She bit her lip. A long pause. "Mr. Hale." She leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. "I understand you're her husband, but the room is registered under your wife's company credit card, and there's another guest listed on the reservation." The lobby suddenly felt too warm. The piano music too loud. "Another guest?" Marcus heard himself ask. Jennifer glanced around, then met his eyes with an expression that looked like pity. "A Mr. Adrian Cole. He checked in Tuesday evening, approximately 2 hours after Mrs. Hale." The name hit Marcus like a physical blow. Adrian, her mentor, her regional director, the man who was supposedly helping her career, guiding her toward promotion, teaching her executive strategy. Adrian was registered in her room. Marcus's mind scrambled for innocent explanations. Maybe it was a mistake, the hotel system confused, rooms adjacent not shared. Maybe they were working late on presentations, and the company had booked them together for convenience. Maybe there was a perfectly reasonable explanation that Jennifer wasn't seeing because she didn't understand corporate travel logistics. "I see," Marcus managed to say, his voice sounding hollow even to himself. "Thank you for letting me know." He walked away from the desk in a daze, his legs moving automatically toward the elevator bank. Other guests brushed past him, a couple laughing about something, businessmen discussing tomorrow's meetings, a family with teenagers arguing about dinner reservations. Normal people having normal evenings. Marcus felt like he was watching them through thick glass, separated from their reality entirely. His hand shook slightly as he pressed the button for the 14th floor. The elevator was empty except for Marcus and his reflection in the polished brass walls. He looked at himself, a man who suddenly seemed older, tired, confused. The doors closed with a soft chime. As the elevator rose, Marcus tried to organize his thoughts. There had to be an explanation. Vanessa wouldn't, she couldn't. They'd been married 7 years. She'd promised honesty, partnership, mutual respect. She'd vowed to choose him every day. She loved him. He knew she loved him. But Adrian was registered in her room. The elevator climbed. 3rd floor, 5th floor, 8th floor. Each number lighting up felt like a countdown to something Marcus didn't want to face. Maybe they were colleagues sharing space for work. Maybe the conference had overbooked and they'd had to double up. Maybe Vanessa had no idea Adrian's name was on the registration. 10th floor, 11th floor. Or maybe Marcus was about to discover something that would shatter everything he believed about his marriage, about his wife, about the last 7 years of his life. 12th floor, 13th floor. The elevator slowed. 14th floor. The doors opened. The hallway stretched before him like something from a dream or a nightmare. Deep charcoal carpet, abstract paintings on the walls, geometric patterns in muted tones that probably cost thousands of dollars. Recessed lighting created pools of shadow and illumination. The hallway was silent except for the mechanical hum of an ice machine somewhere in the distance. Marcus stepped out of the elevator, his overnight bag suddenly feeling impossibly heavy. Room 1408. Room 1410. Room 1412. He stood outside the door, staring at the brass numbers. His hand moved toward his pocket where he'd tucked the small gift bag. Her favorite chocolates he'd picked up at the Dallas airport, a silly romantic gesture that now felt absurd. He raised his fist to knock, then stopped. Voices, muffled but unmistakable, coming from inside the room. Vanessa's voice, breathy, intimate, laughing in a way Marcus knew too well. The laugh she used when she was completely relaxed, completely herself, completely. Marcus stands frozen outside room 1412, his fist raised to knock, as Vanessa's intimate laughter filters through the door, a sound that makes his blood run cold and his world begin to tilt sideways. Marcus stood frozen outside room 1412, his fist still raised, knuckles inches from the door. Vanessa's laughter filtered through, not her polite work laugh, not the one she used at networking events or client dinners. This was her intimate laugh, the one she saved for private moments, for times when her guard was completely down. Then a man's voice, deep, confident, close. Adrian's voice. Marcus recognized it from conference calls Vanessa had taken at home, from that holiday party where they'd shaken hands and discussed corporate strategy. "You're incredible," Adrian said, his words muffled but clear enough. "Absolutely incredible." Vanessa laughed again, breathy now. "You're not so bad yourself." Marcus's heart hammered against his ribs. His mind scrambled for innocent interpretations. Maybe they were celebrating a successful presentation. Maybe this was just colleagues unwinding after a long day. Maybe the sound of movement, rustling fabric, then a soft moan. Vanessa's voice, unmistakable, intimate in a way that made Marcus's stomach lurch. "God, I've been thinking about this all day," Adrian said. "Me too," Vanessa whispered. "Ever since this morning when you—" Her words dissolved into another sound, something between a gasp and a sigh. Then the rhythmic creaking of furniture. Bed springs. The distinctive sound of a headboard tapping against a wall. And then Vanessa's voice. Her voice, the intimate one Marcus thought belonged only to their bedroom, saying things that turned his blood to ice. "Yes, Adrian, right there. Don't stop." The gift bag slipped from Marcus's hand. It fell silently onto the plush carpet, the chocolates inside making a soft thud that nobody heard except him. Marcus's entire body went numb. His fingers tingled. His vision narrowed to a tunnel. All he could see was the brass number 1412, the abstract painting across the hall showing red slashes against black canvas, the fire exit sign glowing at the end of the corridor. His hearing became razor-sharp and distant all at once. He could hear everything. The mechanical hum of the ice machine 3 doors down, the elevator chime from somewhere behind him, the faint sound of a television playing in an adjacent room. But drowning out all of it were the sounds from room 1412. Moaning, gasping, the headboard hitting the wall with increasing rhythm. Vanessa's voice, breathless and abandoned. "God, yes, harder." "Adrian." Marcus felt his knees weaken. He pressed his palm against the wall for support, his hand leaving a faint imprint on the smooth surface. His chest constricted, making it hard to breathe. His throat closed up. He wanted to scream, to pound on the door, to burst in and force them to see what they were destroying. But his body wouldn't move. He was paralyzed, trapped in this moment, forced to listen to his marriage ending in real time. The sounds continued. Urgent now. Building. Vanessa, crying out in a way that Marcus had thought was meant only for him, reserved only for their private moments, their shared intimacy. Then Adrian's voice, rough and satisfied. "You're perfect. This is perfect." "I know," Vanessa gasped. "We're perfect." The words cut through Marcus like broken glass, dragged across his skin. Marcus's mind fractured. Memories erupted unbidden, overlapping with the sounds bleeding through the door. "I promise to choose you every day, to build a partnership rooted in honesty and mutual respect, to never let ambition come before the life we're building together." Vanessa, standing at the altar in her ivory dress, tears streaming down her face, saying those words with such conviction that Marcus had believed them with his entire being. "Everything I'm building for us. This isn't just about me." Vanessa in Santa Fe on their 5th anniversary, standing in the historic plaza, promising that her career, her travel, her ambition, all of it was in service of their shared future. "Miss you too." Summit is exhausting but productive. Adrian's keynote went really well. Probably another late night prepping for tomorrow's sessions. "Love you." The text message she'd sent last night. While Marcus had been at home, trusting her, missing her, she'd been lying with such casual ease that it made him question every word she'd ever spoken. How long? The question burned through his shock. How many business trips? How many late nights at the office? How many strategy sessions and leadership summits had been covers for this? The sound from inside the room began to crescendo. Vanessa's voice reaching that familiar pitch that meant. Marcus stumbled backward, his shoulder hitting the opposite wall. He couldn't listen to this anymore. He couldn't stand here bearing witness to the destruction of 7 years while they had no idea he was 6 feet away, dying. Every instinct screamed at Marcus to act, to pound on that door with both fists, to kick it open, to burst in and force them to face what they were doing, to make them see the devastation in his eyes, to make them feel even a fraction of the pain tearing through his chest like shrapnel. He imagined it. Vanessa's face going white with shock. Adrian scrambling to cover himself. Both of them stuttering excuses, lies piling on lies. The scene would be ugly, raw, satisfying in its immediate vengeance. But then what? Marcus's mind, the part trained in operations management, in strategic problem solving, in thinking 3 steps ahead, cut through the emotional chaos. If he confronted them now, what would he have? His word against theirs. His hurt feelings against their denials. They'd scramble. They'd coordinate stories. Adrian had an MBA from Northwestern and 12 years of corporate experience. Vanessa was a crisis communications expert who managed damage control for Fortune 500 companies. They were professionals at managing narratives, at controlling optics, and making problems disappear. They'd make him the problem. The jealous husband who couldn't handle his wife's success. The insecure man who showed up unannounced, invaded her privacy, jumped to conclusions. They'd twist this somehow, make it about his possessiveness, his inability to trust, his failure to support her career. By the time they finished spinning the story, Marcus would be the villain, and he'd have nothing, no evidence, no liberty, just accusations and emotion while they rebuilt their defenses and covered their tracks. The sound from inside the room had quieted. Low voices now, intimate murmuring Marcus couldn't quite distinguish. Post-intimacy conversation, planning maybe, or just basking in whatever they thought they'd gotten away with. Marcus's hand clenched into a fist. His jaw tightened. The urge to destroy that door, to shatter their comfortable lies, nearly overwhelmed him. But a colder part of him, a part he'd never known existed until this moment, spoke with crystal clarity. Wait. Document. Plan. Don't react. Respond. Confronting them now would give him 30 seconds of emotional release followed by months or years of losing. Losing the divorce. Losing financially. Losing credibility. Losing the narrative. No. If Marcus was going to burn down his marriage, he'd do it strategically, with evidence they couldn't deny, with leverage they couldn't counter, with preparation that would leave them no room to spin, deflect, or escape consequences. Marcus bent down slowly, his movements mechanical, and picked up the gift bag from the carpet. The chocolates inside had shifted, their packaging crinkling softly. He straightened, took one last look at room 1412, the brass numbers that would be burned into his memory forever, and turned away. His legs felt disconnected from his body as he walked back down the corridor. Each step required conscious effort. Left foot, right foot. Don't collapse. Don't scream. Don't look back. The abstract painting with red slashes blurred in his peripheral vision. The ice machine hummed its mechanical dirge. The elevator at the end of the hall glowed like a beacon promising escape from this nightmare corridor. Marcus pressed the call button. His hand was steady, surprisingly, impossibly steady given that his entire world had just shattered. The elevator chimed. Doors opened. Empty. He stepped inside and pressed the button for the lobby. As the doors slid closed, Marcus caught his reflection in the polished brass interior. He looked the same face, same clothes, same overnight bag. But the man staring back at him was fundamentally different from the one who'd ridden up 14 floors 20 minutes ago. That man had been a husband. Trusting, optimistic, romantic. This man was something else entirely. The elevator descended. Marcus's mind was already working, cataloging details, building timelines, planning next steps. The victim in him wanted to weep, to rage, to break something. But the strategist in him, cold, calculating, patient, was taking control. He wouldn't confront them tonight, wouldn't give them warning, wouldn't let them know he'd discovered their betrayal. Instead, he'd document everything, build a case, gather evidence, understand the full scope of their deception before making a single move. Vanessa and Adrian thought they were safe, thought their secret was protected, thought Marcus was 1,400 miles away in Dallas, trusting and oblivious. They had no idea their entire world was about to collapse. But unlike them, Marcus would make sure he was ready when it did. Marcus rides the elevator down in silence, his mind shifting from devastation to something colder and more dangerous, the beginning of a plan. Vanessa and Adrian have no idea that their betrayal has just been witnessed, that evidence is about to be collected, that the husband they thought was safely 1,400 miles away is 6 floors below them, documenting everything. The lobby felt surreal. Marcus walked through it like a ghost, past the couples laughing over cocktails, past the businessmen closing deals on their phones, past the pianist playing something soft and elegant that felt obscene given what he'd just experienced. Everything seemed too bright, too loud, too normal while his world burned. He approached the front desk, where Jennifer still stood, her professional smile faltering slightly when she saw his face. "I need a room for tonight," Marcus said, his voice surprisingly steady. "Do you have anything available?" Jennifer's expression shifted to something like relief. Relief that he wasn't making a scene, wasn't demanding to be let into 1412, wasn't forcing her to call security. "Of course, Mr. Hale. We have a standard king room available on the 8th floor. $295 per night." Marcus handed over his credit card without hesitation. The joint account, he realized with bitter irony. Money Vanessa would see, a charge that would show he'd been here. But that didn't matter anymore. Let her see it. Eventually. "Room 823, Jennifer said, sliding the key card across the marble counter. "Elevators are to your left. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "No. Thank you for your discretion earlier." Jennifer nodded, her eyes conveying sympathy she couldn't voice. Marcus took the key card and walked to the elevators, the gift bag still dangling from his hand like evidence of his own stupidity. Room 823 was nice. King bed with pristine white linens. View of the Chicago skyline, city lights stretching to the horizon. Minibar stocked with bottles Marcus desperately wanted to drain, but knew he couldn't afford to. Not now. Not when he needed his mind sharp. He set his overnight bag on the luggage rack, placed the gift bag on the desk, and pulled out his phone. His hands were steady, unsettlingly steady given the chaos in his chest, as he opened the camera app. First, he photographed the hotel exterior from his window. The Millennium's distinctive glass architecture, the Riverside location. Timestamp, 8:47 p.m., Thursday, December 12, 2024. Then he pulled up his boarding pass from earlier. Screenshot. United Flight 1847, Dallas to Chicago, departed 3:40 p.m., arrived 6:15 p.m. He opened his photos and scrolled back to the hallway outside room 1412. He'd been too shocked to take pictures then, but the image was burned into his memory with photographic precision. Instead, he opened his Notes app and began typing, his fingers moving rapidly across the screen. Thursday, December 12th, 2024, 8:15 p.m., arrived Millennium Hotel, Chicago 8:20 p.m., front desk clerk, Jennifer, confirmed Vanessa checked in Tuesday, December 10th, 8:21 p.m., clerk revealed second guest on room registration. Adrian Cole, 8:35 p.m., stood outside room 1412, 8:36 to 8:45 p.m., heard the following. Marcus paused, his jaw clenching. Then he forced himself to continue. Vanessa's intimate laughter, Adrian's voice. You're incredible. Absolutely incredible. Vanessa, you're not so bad yourself. Extended intimate sounds, unmistakable sexual activity. Vanessa repeatedly using Adrian's name, post-intimacy conversation. He set the phone down, staring at the words on the screen. Seeing it written out made it real in a way the experience hadn't yet. This wasn't a nightmare he'd wake from. This was documented fact. Marcus picked up the phone again and continued typing. Details to investigate. How long has this been happening? Previous business trips, cross-reference with hotel charges, credit card statements, Adrian Cole's background. Is Vanessa the first? Company policies on workplace relationships. Adrian's marital status. Married to Catherine, 2 daughters. He photographed his airline receipt. Photographed the hotel room, key card showing the date and room number. Photographed the view from his window with the timestamp visible. Evidence. Cold, irrefutable evidence. Marcus stared at his phone for a long moment, thumb hovering over Vanessa's name and his contacts. Every instinct screamed at him to call her, to text her the truth, to let her know he'd heard everything. But the strategic part of his mind, the part that had emerged in that 14th floor corridor, stopped him. If she knew he knew, everything would change. She'd coordinate with Adrian. They'd build their defense. They'd delete messages, align stories, prepare explanations. They'd control the narrative before Marcus had time to understand the full scope of their betrayal. No, better to let them think they were safe. Marcus composed a text message, each word feeling like swallowing poison. Hey babe, hope the summit's going great. Been thinking about you all day. Can't wait to hear about the presentations when you get home. Miss you. Love you. His finger hovered over the send button. This was a performance. A lie to match her lies. The beginning of a game he'd never wanted to play. He pressed send. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Vanessa was typing. Marcus's heart hammered as he waited. Miss you too. Summit is exhausting, but so productive. Adrian's crisis management presentation was brilliant. Learned so much. Probably another late night prepping for tomorrow's sessions. Long day tomorrow too. Love you. 2 hearts. Marcus read the message 3 times. Each word was carefully constructed. Each detail a calculated lie. The casual mention of Adrian, as if saying his name innocently somehow made her betrayal less real. The emoji at the end, that little heart, like punctuation on her deception. Probably another late night. The words made Marcus physically ill. Another late night in room 1412. Another night in Adrian's bed while her husband sat 1,400 miles away, trusting her. Except he wasn't 1,400 miles away. He was 6 floors below them, documenting everything. Marcus set the phone down on the nightstand and stared at the ceiling. The lie had come so easily to her. No hositación, no guilt in her words. Just smooth, practiced deception delivered with emojis and false affection. This wasn't new. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This was a system. A well-rehearsed performance she'd probably been giving for months. How many times had she texted him from hotel rooms, from Adrian's bed, saying she missed him while living a completely different life? Marcus pulled out his laptop and opened their joint banking account. He started scrolling through credit card statements, something he'd never bothered examining closely before. Why would he? He trusted her. That trust felt like weaponized naivety now. September. Chicago Ritz-Carlton, $687 August. New York Marriott Marquis, $843 July. San Francisco Fairmont, $921 June. Miami Fontainebleau, $1,156. High-end hotels. Corporate card charges. But when Marcus looked closer at the dates, something didn't add up. Vanessa had told him the Miami trip was a 3-day conference, but the hotel charge showed 5 nights. He opened her work calendar. She'd shared it with him years ago, so he could track when she'd be traveling. The Miami conference had been listed as June 14th to 16th, but the hotel charge was June 13th to 18th. Extra nights. Before and after the official conference. Marcus's hands trembled as he scrolled through more statements. The pattern repeated. Boston, conference dates didn't match hotel dates. Seattle, same thing. Denver, she'd been gone 4 days, but the conference was only 2. This had been happening for months, maybe longer. How many late nights at the office had been lies? How many client dinners had been covers for dates with Adrian? How many times had Marcus kissed her goodbye, told her he was proud of her success, supported her ambition, while she was building a second life with another man? Marcus ordered room service at 11:30 p.m., a club sandwich he couldn't taste. He sat on the edge of the bed, laptop open, phone beside him, researching. Texas divorce laws, adultery as grounds, division of assets, spousal support, how to document infidelity, what evidence courts required, corporate ethics policies at major consulting firms, workplace relationship disclosures. He found Stratton Global's employee handbook online. It required disclosure of any romantic or intimate relationships between employees of different hierarchical levels. Failure to disclose could result in termination. Adrian was Vanessa's direct supervisor. They'd violated company policy. Marcus created a folder on his laptop. Evidence. Inside it, he organized everything: screenshots, photos, timeline notes. Each piece meticulously labeled and dated. Every time he thought about sleeping, he'd close his eyes and hear those sound from room 1412. Vanessa's voice saying Adrian's name. The headboard hitting the wall. Her laugh. That intimate, unguarded laugh that Marcus had thought belonged only to him. He'd jerk awake, heart racing, nausea rising in his throat. Around 3 a.m., Marcus stood at the window, staring out at the Chicago skyline. The city glowed below him. Millions of people sleeping peacefully while his life disintegrated. He could go up there right now, could pound on that door, could force them to face him, could satisfy the burning need for immediate confrontation that still clawed at his chest. But that would be impulse, emotion, reaction. What Marcus needed was patience, strategy, a plan so comprehensive that when he finally moved, they'd have no defense, no escape, no way to spin themselves out of consequences. Dawn broke over Chicago, gray, cold, unforgiving. Marcus hadn't slept more than an hour total. His eyes burned. His body felt heavy, but his mind was clearer than it had been in years. He opened the United app on his phone and changed his return flight. Instead of staying for the romantic evening he'd planned, he'd leave this morning. The 11:30 a.m. flight back to Dallas. Get home before Vanessa returned Friday evening. Resume normal life. Let her think nothing had changed. Marcus packed his overnight bag methodically. The dress shirt he'd never worn. The cologne he'd never used. The sport coat that had been meant for a romantic dinner that would never happen. He left the gift bag with the chocolates on the hotel desk. Let housekeeping deal with it. At the front desk, Jennifer processed his checkout with professional courtesy and knowing eyes. I hope everything worked out, Mr. Hale. It will, Marcus replied. And he meant it. As the Uber drove him back to O'Hare, Marcus composed a text to Vanessa. Hope your last day at the summit goes great. Can't wait to see you tomorrow night. I'll pick up dinner so you don't have to worry about cooking. Love you. He sent it. Waited. 3 minutes later, her reply arrived. You're the best. Can't wait to be home. Love you too. Heartsuit. Marcus stared at the message as the Chicago skyline disappeared behind him. The lies came so easily to her. So smoothly. So effortlessly. But that was fine. Let her lie. Let her think she was safe. Let her believe her secret was protected. because Marcus was going home to build a case so devastating, so comprehensive, so irrefutable that when everything finally collapsed, Vanessa and Adrian would never see it coming. Marcus boards his morning flight home, leaving Vanessa completely unaware that he was ever in Chicago. She thinks her betrayal remains hidden. She has no idea that her husband has already begun documenting everything, and that the evidence he's gathering will soon destroy the life she and Adrian thought they were building on lies. Marcus's flight landed at DFW at 2:15 p.m. Friday afternoon. He drove home through familiar streets that suddenly felt alien, like he was seeing them for the first time, or perhaps seeing them clearly for the first time. The billboards, the traffic, the afternoon sunlight slanting through his windshield. Everything looked the same, yet nothing would ever be the same again. He pulled into the parking garage of their Bishop Arts District apartment at 3 p.m. Vanessa wouldn't be home until after 8 p.m. Her flight from Chicago didn't land until 7:30, and she'd need to collect luggage, drive from the airport, the usual routine he knew by heart. That gave him 5 hours. Marcus unlocked the apartment door and stepped inside. The space felt foreign now, contaminated somehow. The couch where they'd watched movies together. The kitchen where they'd cooked elaborate dinners. The hallway leading to the bedroom they'd shared for 7 years. Every surface, every object felt like evidence of a life that had been a lie. He set his overnight bag down and stood in the living room, just breathing. The afternoon light filtered through the windows, illuminating dust particles floating in the air. Everything was exactly as he'd left it Thursday morning. Nothing had changed, except everything had changed. Marcus pulled out his laptop and opened it on the dining table. Time to find out exactly how deep the lies went. He started with their joint credit card statements, downloading the last 12 months of transactions into a spreadsheet. Vanessa handled most of their finances. She made more money, understood investments better, had always been better with numbers. Marcus had trusted her completely with their accounts. That trust felt like criminal negligence now. He filtered for charges over $200, then began cross-referencing them with Vanessa's work calendar and the explanations she'd given him about each trip. Miami, June 13th to 18th. $1,156 at the Fontainebleau. Vanessa had told him it was a 3-day pharmaceutical conference, June 14th to 16th. But the hotel charge showed 5 nights. 2 extra nights unaccounted for. Boston, August 7th to 12th. $1,423 at the Four Seasons. She'd said it was a 4-day client workshop. The charge showed 5 nights. San Francisco, July 20th to 25th. $1,891 at the Fairmont 3-day strategy summit. She'd told him. 6 nights charged. The pattern was unmistakable. Every business trip included extra nights. Nights she'd never mentioned. Nights that weren't on her official work calendar. Nights she'd simply stolen from their marriage and added to her secret life. Marcus scrolled deeper. Restaurant charges caught his eye. Places in cities where Vanessa had been traveling. Gibson's Bar and Steakhouse, Chicago, $387. The Capitol Grill, Boston, $294. Boulevard Restaurant, San Francisco, $412. Expensive dinners. Always in pairs, 2 entrees, 2 drinks, dessert to share. Romantic dinners Marcus had never been part of, paid for with their joint account while he sat at home eating takeout and grading papers. Then Marcus noticed something else. Charges he'd missed before because they seemed innocuous. Tiffany and Company, New York, $2,400. David Yurman, San Francisco, $1,650. Jewelry. Expensive jewelry. Marcus had never seen Vanessa wear anything from Tiffany or David Yurman. She wore the simple pearl earrings he'd given her on their 3rd anniversary, the delicate gold necklace from their 5th. Where was the $2,400 Tiffany bracelet? The $1,650 David Yurman ring? Marcus's stomach churned. She'd been buying gifts. For Adrian, probably. Using their money to purchase tokens of affection for another man. He added everything to his evidence folder. Screenshots. Highlights. Notes documenting the discrepancies between what Vanessa had told him and what the financial records revealed. The affair wasn't just ongoing. It was expensive. subsidized by Marcus's trust and their joint finances. Marcus stood outside Vanessa's home office, the second bedroom they converted into her workspace. She kept it meticulously organized. Desk with dual monitors, filing cabinet, bookshelf lined with marketing and communications textbooks, a corkboard covered with sticky notes and project timelines. He'd rarely entered this space. It was her domain, her professional sanctuary. Respecting boundaries had always been part of their marriage. But there were no boundaries left to respect. Marcus opened the filing cabinet. Manila folders labeled with client names, project codes, conference materials. He flipped through them methodically, looking for anything that didn't belong in a professional context. In the third drawer, underneath a folder labeled Q3 Quarterly Reviews, Marcus found a leather planner. Not the digital calendar Vanessa kept on her phone, but an old-fashioned paper planner with daily entries written in her precise handwriting. He opened it to June. June 13th, Miami early. Checked in before conference starts. Dinner at Fontainebleau with A. June 14th, conference day 1. Boring panels. Evening with A. Walked the beach. June 15th, skipped morning session. And I had room service. Worth it. June 16th, conference day 3. Flight delayed. Told him I'd be home late. Extra night with A. Marcus's hands shook as he turned the pages. July was the same. August. September. Every business trip documented with the same casual notations about stolen time with A. Skipped conference sessions. Fabricated delays. Elaborate lies told to Marcus about work obligations while she was building intimacy with Adrian. July 23rd. They said he's falling for me. I think I feel the same. August 10th, told him I had an early morning client call. Actually just wanted extra time with A before leaving Boston. September 5th, they talked about leaving Catherine. Not sure if I believe him, but I want to. Marcus set the planner down, vision blurring. She'd been documenting their affair like it was something precious, something worth preserving in permanent ink, while Marcus was erased into lies and omissions. He photographed every page, every entry, every casual notation of betrayal. Then he found the note. It was tucked inside the planner's back pocket, a small piece of hotel stationery from the Fairmont in San Francisco, dated July 24th. Oh, last night was worth every risk. You're extraordinary, and I can't imagine my life without you anymore. Soon we won't have to hide. Soon we can build something real together. Yours, A. Marcus read it 3 times. Soon we won't have to hide. Build something real together. This wasn't just an affair. This was a relationship with a future. Adrian wasn't just sleeping with Vanessa. He was planning a life with her, which meant they were planning to destroy their existing marriages, to blow up Marcus's life and Catherine's life so they could have what they wanted. Marcus photographed the note, his jaw clenched so tight it ached. Marcus spread everything across the dining table. Credit card statements, planner photographs, the handwritten note, his own documented timeline from Chicago. He began building a comprehensive picture of the affair's scope and duration. The earliest concrete evidence was from June, 5 months ago, but there were hints suggesting it had started earlier. A notation in Vanessa's planner from late May. Drinks with A after the presentation. Something shifted. Excited and terrified. 6 months minimum. Possibly longer. 6 months of lies. 6 months of business trips that were covers for romantic getaways. 6 months of Marcus supporting Vanessa's career while she used that career as infrastructure for betrayal. 6 months of I love you texts sent from Adrian's bed. 6 months of elaborate deceptions while Marcus planned their future, talked about buying a house, discussed starting a family. Every conversation they'd had about timelines for children, Vanessa saying, maybe next year when work settles down, took on new, sickening meaning. She wasn't waiting for work to settle down. She was waiting to see if her relationship with Adrian would become permanent before committing to a future with Marcus. He'd been a placeholder, a backup plan, the safe option while she explored something more exciting. Marcus felt grief crash over him, pure, overwhelming grief for the marriage he thought he had, for the wife he thought he knew, for the 7 years he'd invested in building something he now understood had been one-sided for at least half a year. But underneath the grief, something harder was forming. Something cold and crystalline and unbreakable. Resolve. Marcus sat at the dining table as afternoon faded into evening, surrounded by evidence of his wife's betrayal, and felt something fundamental shift inside him. The grief was real. The pain was excruciating, but he couldn't afford to drown in those emotions. Not yet. Not while Vanessa still thought her secret was safe. Not while Adrian believed he'd gotten away with destroying another man's marriage. Marcus had always been methodical, strategic, patient. Those qualities had made him good at his job, coordinating complex logistics, solving problems, managing competing priorities. Now he'd apply those same skills to understanding exactly what had been done to him and who else might be complicit. Vanessa wasn't innocent. That much was clear from her planner, from her casual documentation of deception, from her willingness to steal time and money from their marriage to fund her affair. But Adrian was the one with power in this dynamic. He was Vanessa's supervisor. He'd been with Stratton for 12 years. He had experience, resources, corporate influence. And according to the note, he'd been the one talking about leaving his marriage, about building something real. Had Adrian done this before? Was Vanessa his first affair, or part of a pattern? Marcus remembered Catherine at that holiday party. Elegant, accomplished, showing him photos of their daughters with genuine pride. She deserved to know what her husband was doing. But more than that, if Adrian had a history of inappropriate relationships with subordinates, that was leverage Marcus could use. He needed to look beyond his own shattered marriage. He needed to understand Adrian Cole, his reputation, his history, his vulnerabilities. Because if Marcus was going to burn down the lies that had consumed his life, he'd make sure everyone who'd participated in building those lies faced consequences. Marcus checked the time. 7:15 p.m. Vanessa would be landing soon, collecting her luggage, texting him that she was on her way home. He'd have to perform normalcy for her, smile, ask about the summit, pretend nothing had changed. But first, he had one more thing to do. Marcus opened his laptop and searched. Adrian Cole, Stratton Global Consulting. LinkedIn profile. Professional biography. Conference presentations. Nothing obviously incriminating. Then he tried a different approach. He'd mentioned at that holiday party that he had a friend in corporate compliance. Time to make a casual phone call. Ask innocent questions. See what shook loose. Marcus pulled out his phone and scrolled to Derek Chen's number. They'd gone to college together, stayed in touch over the years. Derek worked in HR compliance for a large consulting firm. Not Stratton, but he'd know people in the industry. He'd know how to ask questions discreetly. Marcus composed a text. Hey man, random question. You know anyone at Stratton Global Consulting? Trying to get a sense of their corporate culture for a friend considering a job there. Specifically interested in their senior leadership. He sent it. Waited. 3 minutes later, Derek replied. Actually, yeah, I know a couple people there. Let me ask around. What specifically does your friend want to know? Marcus typed carefully, just general stuff. How they treat employees. Whether leadership is ethical. You know, the usual due diligence. Got it. I'll reach out to my contacts. Should have something for you in a day or two. Marcus set the phone down. The investigation was expanding. His phone buzzed. Vanessa, just landed. Grabbing luggage now. Be home in about 45 minutes. Can't wait to see you. Heart suit. Marcus stared at the message, at the heart emoji, at the casual ease with which she lied. He typed back, can't wait to see you too. Drive safe. Love you. Then he began cleaning up the dining table, returning files to Vanessa's office exactly as he'd found them, erasing any trace of his investigation. By the time she walked through that door, Marcus would be the same supportive, trusting husband she'd left behind Thursday morning. But underneath that performance, he'd be building a case so comprehensive, so devastating, that when it finally detonated, everyone who'd participated in his betrayal would lose everything. Marcus realizes Vanessa isn't the only one who needs to be investigated. Adrian Cole, with his power, his influence, his 12 years at Stratton, is the key. If Adrian has done this before, if there's a pattern of inappropriate relationships with subordinates, that changes everything. Marcus isn't just fighting for his marriage anymore. He's beginning to uncover something bigger, something that could destroy more than just his own life. Vanessa came home at 8:47 p.m., rolling her Toomey carry-on through the door with practiced ease. She looked tired but polished, her hair still perfect despite the travel, her silk blouse only slightly wrinkled. She smiled when she saw Marcus standing in the kitchen, and for a split second, he saw the woman he'd married. Then the image shattered, replaced by the reality of who she actually was. "Hey, babe," she said, dropping her bag and walking over to kiss him. Her lips were soft, familiar. Marcus forced himself not to recoil. "I missed you so much." "Missed you too," Marcus replied, the lie tasting like acid. "How was the summit?" "Exhausting but incredible. My presentation went really well." Adrian said it was the strongest framework he'd seen in years. "I think the partners were impressed." She opened a refrigerator, grabbed a bottle of water. "How was your week?" "Quiet. Just work and catching up on some reading." Marcus leaned against the counter, watching her perform normalcy. "Did you end up working late every night like you thought?" "Pretty much. You know how these conferences are. The real networking happens after the official sessions end." She smiled, completely at ease with the lie. "Adrian and I had drinks with some executives from the New York office Wednesday night. Didn't get to bed until after midnight." Wednesday night. The night Marcus had stood outside room 1412 listening to her betray 7 years of marriage. "Sounds productive," Marcus said evenly. They ordered Thai food, their usual Friday night ritual. They ate on the couch, Vanessa talking about presentations and networking opportunities while Marcus performed the role of supportive husband. He asked questions, laughed at her stories, touched her hand when she reached for his. Inside, he felt nothing but cold calculation. At 11 p.m., Vanessa yawned and headed to the bedroom. Marcus stayed up, claiming he wanted to finish a logistics report. He waited until he heard her breathing deepen into sleep, then pulled out his phone. Derek had texted an hour ago. "Call me tomorrow." Found some interesting stuff about Strato. Saturday morning, Marcus left the apartment at 9 a.m., telling Vanessa he was going to the gym. Instead, he drove to a coffee shop 3 neighborhoods away and called Derek from his car. "Marcus, hey." Derek's voice was cautious. "So, I asked around about Stratton like you wanted, specifically about their senior leadership. And I talked to someone who used to work there. HR coordinator who left about 2 years ago. She was very careful about what she said, NDAs, but she was willing to talk off the record." Derek paused. "Your friend considering the job there. Is it a woman?" Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. "Why?" "Because Adrian Cole has a reputation. Not public, not documented, but known among people who've worked there. He's brilliant. Everyone agrees on that. Stanford MBA, tracks executive-level strategy like it's second nature. But there's a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" "Women. Talented women who report to him. They get promoted quickly. They get high-profile accounts. Then they get transferred to different divisions, or they leave the company entirely. And the ones who leave, they sign NDAs with generous severance packages." Marcus felt his chest constrict. "How many?" "My contact knew of at least 3 cases in the 8 years she worked there. There were probably more she didn't know about." The company settles quietly. HR investigates, finds insufficient evidence, and everyone moves on. But the pattern is there if you know to look for it. And no one stops him. He's too valuable. He brings in major clients, manages multi-million-dollar accounts, has relationships with Fortune 500 executives. The partners tolerate him because he makes them too much money. As long as the women sign NDAs and take the settlements, there's no public scandal. Marcus stared through the windshield at the parking lot, his mind racing. These women who left, were they victims or participants? Derek was quiet for a moment. That's complicated. Some probably were victims, younger employees he had power over. But others? My contact said at least 2 of them knew exactly what they were doing. They leveraged the relationships for promotions, for access to high-profile accounts, for career advancement. Then when things got messy, they took the settlements and left. So some of them were complicit. Yeah, using him as much as he was using them. Corporate affairs that benefit both parties until someone's spouse finds out or HR gets involved. Then everyone lawyers up and the mess gets cleaned with money and NDAs. Marcus closed his eyes. The woman I'm asking about. Her name is Vanessa. She's my wife. Silence on the other end. Then, Jesus, Marcus. I'm sorry. Is she a victim or a collaborator, Derek? How do I know? I don't know, man. But if she's been with Adrian for a while, and she's still there, still getting promoted, still on his accounts, that suggests she knows what game she's playing. Marcus sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes after the call ended, trying to reconcile what he'd learned with what he wanted to believe. Part of him wanted Vanessa to be a victim, wanted to believe Adrian had manipulated her, exploited his position of power, seduced her with promises of career advancement she'd been too naive to recognize as corruption. If she was a victim, Marcus could almost understand, could almost find a path toward forgiveness, or at least toward an explanation that preserves some fragment of the woman he'd married. But the evidence suggested something else. Vanessa's planner entries weren't those of a victim. They were casual, excited, deliberate. Skipped morning session. And I had room service. Worth it. That wasn't someone being coerced. That was someone making calculated choices about how to spend stolen time. The financial records showed expensive dinners, luxury hotels, jewelry purchases. Vanessa was benefiting materially from the affair while using Marcus's income and their joint accounts to subsidize it. And her career trajectory matched Derek's description perfectly. In the 18 months since Adrian became her direct supervisor, she'd been promoted once and was positioned for another promotion. She'd been given high-profile accounts, invited to executive strategy sessions, positioned as a rising star within Stratton. Was that merit? Or was it payment for intimacy? Marcus wanted to believe Vanessa was better than that. But the woman who'd lied so effortlessly last night, who'd kissed him hello while still carrying the scent of betrayal from Chicago, who'd bought gift for her lover with their joint funds, that woman was capable of using Adrian as much as he was using her. Maybe they deserved each other. But Catherine didn't deserve this. Catherine, elegant, accomplished, showing Marcus photos of her daughters at that holiday party, was an innocent victim in whatever transaction Adrian and Vanessa had constructed. And if there were other women before Vanessa, other marriages destroyed, other families shattered while Stratton's partners looked the other way because Adrian was too profitable to discipline, that needed to be exposed. This wasn't just about Marcus's marriage anymore. This was about a pattern of corruption that had been allowed to continue because powerful people found it convenient to ignore. Marcus drove home, his mind working through possibilities. If he exposed Adrian, he'd need ironclad evidence. The kind that couldn't be dismissed or settled with an NDA. The kind that would force Stratton to act. He had documentation of his own marriage's destruction. But that alone might not be enough to bring down someone as entrenched as Adrian Cole. He needed more. Evidence of the pattern. Testimony from other women. Proof that Stratton's leadership knew and chose to ignore it. When Marcus got back to the apartment, Vanessa was in the shower. Her phone sat on the nightstand, charging. She left it unlocked. She always did at home. Why wouldn't she? Marcus had never given her reason to hide it from him. He picked it up, hand steady, and opened her messages. Texts from colleagues about project timelines. Group chats about office politics. Messages from her mother about Christmas plans. Then, a conversation with someone labeled AC. Marcus's thumb hovered over it. This was invasion of privacy. This was crossing a line that, once crossed, couldn't be uncrossed. But Vanessa had already obliterated every line in their marriage. This wasn't about respecting boundaries anymore. This was about finding truth. He opened the conversation. The messages went back months. Hundreds of them. Marcus scrolled through quickly, looking for anything that would answer the question burning in his mind. Was Vanessa a victim or a collaborator? Adrian, August 15th, when you get the promotion to senior director, we need to be more careful. Can't have people asking questions. Vanessa, August 15th, I know, but it's worth it. You're worth it. Adrian, September 3rd, Catherine is talking about couples therapy. I might need to play along for a while. Vanessa, September 3rd, whatever you need to do. Just don't forget about us. Marcus kept scrolling, nausea building. Adrian, October 12th, the VP track opens up next quarter. I'm positioning you for it, but you'll need to handle the interview process carefully. Vanessa, October 12th, I trust you. You got me this far. Then he found it. The message from 3 weeks ago, November 20th. The message that answered every question about Vanessa's complicity. Adrian, November 20th, we need to talk about timing. Catherine is getting suspicious. And Marcus, does he suspect anything? Vanessa, November 20th, Marcus? No, he's completely clueless. Trust me completely. It's almost too easy. Marcus read it again. Then again. He's completely clueless. Trust me completely. It's almost too easy. The words cut deeper than anything he'd heard in room 1412. Deeper than the planner entries or the financial deception. Because this wasn't just documentation of an affair. This was contempt. Mockery. Vanessa laughing at his trust, at his support, at his love. He scrolled further. Found another exchange from last week. Adrian, December 5th after the Chicago summit. We need to discuss next steps. I think I'm ready to leave Catherine. Vanessa, December 5th, what about Marcus? Adrian, December 5th, wait until your promotion is finalized. Then file. You'll have more leverage that way. Better settlement. Vanessa, December 5th, smart. He won't see it coming. I've been so careful. Marcus's hands trembled as he took screenshots. Every message, every strategic calculation about how to maximize her exit from their marriage while minimizing financial consequences to herself. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning to destroy 2 marriages with calculated precision, timing their departures to maximize Vanessa's career position and settlement leverage. The shower stopped. Vanessa would be out in minutes. Marcus closed the messages, placed the phone exactly where he'd found it, and walked to the kitchen. His heart pounded, his vision blurred, but his mind was crystal clear. Vanessa wasn't a victim. She was a calculating participant who'd viewed her husband's trust as a tactical advantage, something to exploit until she no longer needed it. The grief Marcus had felt earlier was gone, burned away by the evidence of her contempt. What remained was something harder, something cold and absolute. She wanted to play strategic games with his life? Fine, but she'd just shown him exactly how ruthless he needed to be. Marcus has found the smoking gun. Text messages showing Vanessa and Adrian planning to time their divorces strategically, discussing Marcus's complete trust with contempt, coordinating their exits to maximize her settlement leverage. Vanessa isn't a victim. She's a willing collaborator who views her husband as an obstacle to be managed. And now Marcus knows exactly who he's dealing with, and exactly how far he needs to go to make sure they both lose everything they thought they were building on lies. Sunday evening arrived with deceptive normalcy. Vanessa had spent the day working in her office, catching up on emails from the Chicago summit. Marcus had maintained his performance, making breakfast, suggesting they watch a movie later, acting like the trusting husband she believed him to be. Around 8 p.m., Vanessa emerged from her office stretching. I need to run to the store. We're out of coffee, and I have early meetings all week. Want anything? I'm good. Marcus replied from the couch where he'd been pretending to read a logistics report. Be back in 30. She grabbed her purse and keys, then paused at the door. Love you. Love you too, Marcus said automatically. The door closed. Her Audi started in the parking garage below. Marcus waited until he heard the engine fade before moving. Vanessa's iPad sat on the kitchen counter where she'd left it after reviewing presentation slides earlier. The screen was dark but not locked. She had it set to stay active for 2 hours after use for convenience during work sessions. Marcus picked it up. The screen illuminated at his touch. He shouldn't do this. Some rational part of him knew that what he was about to discover would complete the destruction of whatever fragments of their marriage still remained. But after finding those text messages on her phone yesterday, after learning she'd mocked his trust as being almost too easy, Marcus had moved beyond caring about boundaries or moral high ground. He needed to know everything. The iPad was synced to her iMessage account. He opened it, navigated to the conversation with AC, and scrolled to messages from the past few days, ones he hadn't seen on her phone. What he found made everything else look like preliminary damage. The exchange was from Friday night, after Vanessa had come home from Chicago, after she'd kissed Marcus hello and lied about her week. She'd sent these messages from their bedroom, while Marcus had been in the living room pretending to work. Adrian, Friday, 11:47 p.m., made it home. Catherine didn't ask many questions. Think we're still safe. Vanessa, Friday, 11:49 p.m. Same here. Marcus was his usual supportive self. Asked about the summit, told me he was proud of me. It's almost sad how easy this is. Marcus's jaw clenched, but he kept reading. Adrian, Friday, 11:52 p.m. We need to talk about timeline. I'm serious about leaving Catherine, but we need to be smart about this. Vanessa, Friday, 11:54 p.m. I know. I've been thinking about it too, but we have to time this perfectly. Adrian, Friday, 11:56 p.m. What are you thinking? Vanessa, Friday, 11:58 p.m. My promotion to senior director should be finalized by February. Once that's official and I have the salary bump documented, then we move. Not before. Adrian, Saturday, 12:02 a.m. Smart. Higher income means better positioning in divorce proceedings. Vanessa, Saturday, 12:04 a.m. exactly. And I've been careful about finances. The apartment lease is in both our names, but I can document that my income has been covering most expenses. The Audi is in my name. I've been slowly moving money into my separate savings account. Just small amounts Marcus won't notice. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. She'd been planning this. Not for weeks, but for months. Systematically positioning herself for maximum advantage in a divorce he didn't even know was coming. Adrian, Saturday, 12:07 a.m. What about the joint accounts? Vanessa, Saturday, 12:09 a.m. That's where it gets interesting. Texas is a community property state, so everything gets split 50-50 unless we can show separate contributions. I've been documenting every deposit I make versus what Marcus contributes. My income is almost double his, so I can argue I should retain more of the shared assets. Adrian, Saturday, 12:11 a.m. You've really thought this through. Vanessa, Saturday, 12:13 a.m. Of course I have. I'm not leaving this marriage empty-handed after 7 years. Marcus is sweet, but he's financially naive. He trusts me with all our accounts, never questions where money goes. I've been using that. Marcus's hands shook as he read. Every time he'd praised her financial acumen, every time he'd been grateful she handled her money because she was better with numbers, she'd been weaponizing his trust. Adrian, Saturday, 12:16 a.m. What's your endgame? Vanessa, Saturday, 12:19 a.m. Get the promotion. Document my higher earning capacity. Then file citing irreconcilable differences, clean, no-fault divorce, so it moves quickly. But here's the key. I want to delay until I've secured at least one more performance bonus. That'll be in March. So we're looking at late March or early April to make our moves. Adrian, Saturday, 12:22 a.m. And in the meantime, Vanessa, Saturday, 12:24 a.m. In the meantime, I play the devoted wife. Keep Marcus comfortable and unsuspecting. The longer he stays clueless, the better position I'm in when everything comes out. Marcus scrolled further, finding an earlier exchange from 2 weeks ago that detailed the full scope of Vanessa's financial strategy. Vanessa, November 28th, I've been thinking about the financial angle more. Marcus has been contributing to our joint savings, but I've been strategically pulling money out for business expenses and putting it in my separate account. He never checks the statements. Adrian, November 28th, how much have you moved? Vanessa, November 28th, about $18,000 over the past 6 months. Small withdrawals, nothing that would trigger his attention. I categorize them as work wardrobe, professional development, networking expenses. He just sees me succeeding at my career and never questions the costs. Adrian, November 28th, Jesus. You're thorough. Vanessa, November 28th, I learned from my parents. They taught me never to be financially dependent on anyone. Marcus is a good guy, but he's not my future. You are. And I'm not going to let sentiment cost me financial security. Marcus set the iPad down, his entire body rigid with fury. She hadn't just been having an affair. She'd been systematically dismantling their financial security, moving their shared money into accounts he couldn't access, all while he'd been proudly supporting her career advancement. Every business trip she'd taken, trips he'd encouraged her to go on, trips he'd told her would be good for her career, she'd been using to steal from their joint resources while building her exit strategy. The $18,000 she'd moved. That was money Marcus had contributed from his bonuses, from overtime, from the financial cushion they were supposedly building for their future house, their future family. Money he'd worked for while she'd been planning to leave him with precisely calculated timing to maximize her advantage. Marcus walked to the window, staring out at the Dallas skyline without seeing it. His mind was cataloging every kindness he'd shown Vanessa, every way he'd supported her, every sacrifice he'd made, and recognizing how each one had been exploited. He'd encouraged her to take that job at Stratton even though it meant more travel, more time apart. She'd used it to build her affair with Adrian. He'd been proud when she got promoted, celebrated her success, told everyone how talented she was. She'd used that promotion as leverage to position herself for a profitable divorce. He'd trusted her with their finances because she was better at investing. She'd used that trust to systematically rob their joint accounts. He'd been patient about starting a family, telling her, "Whenever you're ready, I'm ready." She'd been waiting to see if Adrian would leave his wife first. Every single act of love, trust, and support had been weaponized against him. His kindness hadn't been cherished. It had been exploited as tactical weakness by someone who viewed their marriage as a financial arrangement to be optimized before termination. The remaining fragments of sympathy Marcus had felt, the small part of him that had wondered if Vanessa had been manipulated, if she deserved some understanding, if there was any path to forgiveness, died in that moment. She wasn't a wife who'd made a mistake. She was a strategist who'd been executing a calculated plan to extract maximum value from their marriage before discarding him. Marcus returned to the iPad and took methodical screenshots of every message that documented Vanessa and Adrian's planning. The timeline discussions, the financial manipulation, the contempt for his trust, every piece of evidence that showed premeditated intent to destroy his financial security. Then he transferred everything to his encrypted evidence folder on his laptop. He now had legal evidence, documentation of adultery, his own testimony from Chicago, text messages showing affair duration and planning, financial records proving asset diversion, $18,000 stolen from joint accounts, timeline showing premeditated divorce strategy, corporate evidence, Adrian's pattern of inappropriate relationships with subordinates, multiple NDA settlements with former Stratton employees, Vanessa's promotions correlating with intimate relationship with direct supervisor, violation of Stratton's workplace relationship disclosure policies, personal evidence, hotel receipts showing extended stays beyond work requirements, restaurant charges for romantic dinners on joint accounts, jewelry purchases for Adrian using joint funds, Vanessa's planner documenting systematic deception. Marcus opened a new document and began organizing everything into a comprehensive dossier. Multiple copies would be necessary, one for his divorce attorney, one for Stratton's HR department and legal counsel, one for the company's board of directors, and one for Adrian Cole, who deserved to know what her husband had been doing. He worked for 2 hours, cross-referencing dates, building timelines, ensuring every claim was supported by documentary evidence. This wasn't about emotion anymore. This was about creating a case so airtight that Vanessa and Adrian would have no room to maneuver, no way to spin themselves out of consequences. At 10:15 p.m., headlights swept across the apartment windows. Vanessa's Audi pulling into the parking garage. Marcus quickly saved everything, closed his laptop, and moved to the couch. By the time Vanessa opened the door, carrying a bag from the grocery store, he was in the exact position she'd left him, reading reports, looking domestic and comfortable. "Store was more crowded than I expected," she said, setting the bag on the counter. "Got your favorite coffee, though." "Thanks, babe," Marcus replied, his voice steady. "You're the best." She smiled, that confident, self-assured smile he'd once loved. Now it just looked like the performance it was. "I'm going to shower and head to bed," Vanessa said. "Long week ahead." "Sleep well," Marcus told her. He listened to the shower run, to Vanessa's nighttime routine, to her settling into bed. At 11:30 p.m., her breathing deepened into sleep. Marcus stayed on the couch, laptop open, finalizing his strategy. He had everything he needed now. Every piece of evidence documented, every angle covered, every vulnerability identified. Tomorrow, he'd make the call to a divorce attorney, not one of the collaborative, mediation-focused lawyers who try to keep things civil. He needed someone ruthless, someone who specialized in high-conflict divorces, someone who would fight for every dollar Vanessa had tried to steal. Then he'd contact Derek again, get him to introduce Marcus to someone in Stratton's HR department who could receive the evidence about Adrian's pattern of behavior. And finally, he'd reach out to Adrian Cole. She deserved to know. She deserved the chance to protect herself and her daughters before Adrian could position himself for maximum advantage in their divorce too. Vanessa thought she was playing a strategic game. She thought she'd calculated every angle, controlled every variable. She had no idea that her carefully constructed plan was about to detonate in her face. Marcus has assembled a comprehensive dossier of evidence documenting everything: the affair, the financial manipulation, Adrian's pattern of behavior, Vanessa's contempt for his trust. Every act of kindness he showed her was weaponized. Every sacrifice he made was exploited. The sympathy is gone. What remains is cold, calculated resolve. Tomorrow, Marcus begins executing a plan that will destroy everything Vanessa and Adrian thought they were building. And they have no idea it's coming. Marcus woke at 6 a.m. Monday morning, while Vanessa was still asleep. He'd spent Sunday meticulously preparing, organizing evidence into 3 separate packages, each tailored for its specific recipient. Now it's time to execute. Vanessa left for work at 7:45 a.m., kissing him goodbye like always, telling him about her busy day of client meetings. Marcus smiled, told her he loved her, and watched her drive away for the last time as his wife in anything but legal technicality. At 8 a.m. exactly, Marcus pressed send on 3 emails he drafted and refined over the past 18 hours. Email 1. Stratton Global Consulting, HR Department and Legal Counsel. Subject: formal complaint, sexual harassment, and workplace ethics violations. 2. Jennifer Martinez, VP of Human Resources, Robert Shun, General Counsel. The email contained a detailed complaint about Adrian Cole's pattern of inappropriate relationships with subordinates, supported by names and approximate dates of 3 previous employees who'd left with NDA settlements, provided by Derek's contact. Documentation of Adrian and Vanessa's affair, including hotel receipts, text messages, and timeline. Evidence of promotions coinciding with the intimate relationship. Violation of mandatory disclosure requirements for workplace relationships. Screen captures of messages discussing divorce timing to maximize career leverage. Marcus concluded, "I am providing this information not out of personal vendetta, but because Mr. Cole's pattern of behavior represents a serious liability to Stratton Global. My wife is not his first subordinate relationship, and without intervention, she will not be his last. I am prepared to provide sworn testimony and additional documentation as needed." Email 2. Stratton Board of Directors. Same information, with additional context. I am bringing this directly to the board's attention because I have reason to believe HR has previously settled similar complaints without addressing the underlying pattern. Mr. Cole's value to the company should not exempt him from basic ethical standards. Email 3. Adrian Cole. This one was harder to write. Marcus kept it brief, compassionate, and included only what she needed to know. Mrs. Cole, we met briefly at Stratton's holiday party last year. I am writing to inform you that your husband Adrian has been having an affair with my wife Vanessa for at least the past 6 months. I have substantial evidence, which I am willing to share with you. I'm deeply sorry to be the bearer of this news. You and your daughters deserve better than this deception. If you need documentation for your own legal purposes, please contact me. Marcus attached selected evidence, enough to prove the affair, but not so much as to be cruel. Hotel receipts, a few text messages, the handwritten note from Adrian. At 8:03 a.m., he sent all 3 emails. Then he called the law firm he'd researched all weekend, Patterson and Associates, specialists in high-conflict divorce cases with a reputation for aggressive asset protection. I need to schedule an emergency consultation, Marcus told the receptionist. Today, if possible. My wife has been systematically diverting marital assets while planning a surprise divorce. I need to file first. They had an opening at 2 p.m. Vanessa was in a client strategy meeting when her assistant knocked on the conference room door. Ms. Hale, HR needs to see you immediately. They said it's urgent. Vanessa excused herself, annoyed at the interruption. She walked to the HR department on the building's third floor, expecting some routine compliance matter or benefits question. Jennifer Martinez, VP of Human Resources, and Robert Shun, General Counsel, were waiting in a conference room with serious expressions. Vanessa, please sit down, Jennifer said. Is everything okay? Vanessa asked, still not sensing danger. We received a formal complaint this morning that requires immediate investigation, Robert said, sliding a printed document across the table. We need to ask you some questions about your relationship with Adrian Cole. Vanessa's face went white. What? We have evidence suggesting you and Mr. Cole have been engaged in an undisclosed intimate relationship for approximately 6 months. This relationship violates Stratton's workplace conduct policies, specifically the mandatory disclosure requirement for relationships between supervisors and subordinates. That's not. Vanessa's mind raced. How did they know? Who had told them? Marcus couldn't know. He'd kissed her goodbye this morning like everything was normal. Jennifer pulled out printed copies of text messages. Messages Vanessa recognized immediately because she'd sent them. Messages discussing the affair. Discussing promotion timing. Discussing divorce strategy. Where did you get those? Vanessa whispered. That's not relevant to this investigation, Robert replied. What is relevant is whether these messages are authentic. Did you send these messages to Adrian Cole? Vanessa's corporate crisis management training kicked in. I need to speak with my attorney before answering any questions. That's your right, Jennifer said. However, I need to inform you that effective immediately, you're being placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of this investigation. We'll need your badge and laptop. You're suspending me? Vanessa's voice rose. I haven't done anything wrong. You've been in an undisclosed relationship with your direct supervisor, Robert said calmly. That alone is a terminable offense. The investigation will determine whether there are additional violations, including whether your recent promotions were influenced by this relationship rather than merit. Vanessa felt the walls closing in. Her promotion, her VP track, everything she'd worked for, everything she'd sacrificed her marriage for, it was all collapsing. What about Adrian? She asked. Mr. Cole has also been placed on administrative leave. He's being informed as we speak. Adrian Cole was on a conference call when security appeared at his door with Jennifer Martinez. The look on their faces told him everything he needed to know before they spoke a word. The call with HR was shorter than Vanessa's. Adrian was a 12-year veteran who understood corporate liability. He knew exactly what was happening and why. Who filed the complaint? He asked. Marcus Hale, Jennifer said. Vanessa's husband. He provided extensive documentation. Adrian's jaw clenched. Marcus, the quiet, supportive husband who worked in logistics and never asked questions. How the hell did Marcus know? Does Catherine know? Adrian asked quietly. I can't speak to that, Jennifer replied. But Mr. Hale indicated he planned to inform her. Adrian closed his eyes. His marriage, his career, everything was detonating simultaneously, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Vanessa left Stratton's office in shock, her badge and laptop confiscated, her career in ruins. She sat in her Audi in the parking garage, trying to process what had happened. She needed to talk to Adrian, but his number went straight to voicemail. He was probably being interrogated by HR too. She needed to talk to Marcus. He would understand, wouldn't he? She could explain. She could fix this. Vanessa pulled out her phone and started to dial, then stopped. Something felt wrong. If HR had gotten those messages, if they knew details only Marcus could know. Her phone buzzed. Her assistant. Ms. Hale, someone is here to see you in the lobby. Says it's urgent. Vanessa drove back to Stratton's building, parked, and walked to the lobby. A man in a business suit stood near the reception desk, holding an envelope. Vanessa Hale? He asked. Yes. You've been served. He handed her the envelope and walked away. Vanessa opened it with shaking hands. Divorce petition, filed by Marcus Hale. Grounds: adultery. Asset protection measures requesting immediate freeze of joint accounts. Request for full accounting of marital assets. Court date set for preliminary hearing in 2 weeks. She stood in Stratton's lobby, the building where she'd built her career, where she'd had her affair, where she'd just been suspended, holding divorce papers served publicly while colleagues walked past staring. Everything was falling apart. Vanessa called Marcus 17 times between noon and 1 p.m. Every call went to voicemail. She texted, "Marcus, please call me. We need to talk. Please. I can explain everything. Please just call me. This is all a misunderstanding. Please, Marcus. How could you do this to me? At my workplace? Call me now." Marcus read each message as it came in. He was sitting in a coffee shop 3 neighborhoods away, laptop open, watching everything unfold exactly as he'd planned. He didn't respond. At 1:47 p.m., Vanessa called one more time. This time, Marcus answered. "Marcus, thank God." Vanessa started, her voice breaking. "I was in Chicago," Marcus said calmly, cutting her off. "Thursday night, December 12th. I flew in to surprise you." Silence on the other end. "I stood outside room 1412 and heard everything, Vanessa. Every sound, every word, every lie." "Marcus, please, I can explain." "You're completely clueless," Marcus continued, his voice still eerily calm. "That's what you told Adrian about me. That I trust you completely, and it's almost too easy. I read your messages, Vanessa. All of them." He could hear her breathing, ragged and panicked. "The $18,000 you moved from our joint accounts. The promotion you were waiting for before filing for divorce. The timeline you and Adrian planned. Wait until March to maximize your settlement leverage. I know everything. How did you? When did you?" Vanessa couldn't form coherent sentences. "You left your iPad unlocked Sunday night. While you were at the store buying coffee, I read 6 months of messages between you and Adrian. Your entire strategy. Your contempt for my trust. Your plan to keep me comfortable and unsuspecting while you positioned yourself to take everything." "Marcus, please." "I loved you," Marcus said, and for the first time, emotion cracked through his calm. "I supported every ambition, every trip, every late night. I was proud of you, and you used every single act of kindness as a weapon against me. I never meant to hurt you. You told Adrian I was sweet, but financially naive. You systematically stole from our joint accounts. You planned to file for divorce the moment you secured your next bonus. Don't tell me you never meant to hurt me. Hurting me was part of your strategy." Vanessa was crying now. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. I don't want anything from you anymore. I'm calling because you deserve to know that I'm not the naive, trusting husband you thought I was. You wanted to play strategic games with my life? Fine. But you forgot one thing." "What?" "I actually loved you, which means I paid attention. I knew you better than you knew yourself. And when you betrayed that, you gave me every reason to be ruthless." "Marcus, Stratton has all the evidence about you and Adrian. The board knows. HR knows. Legal knows. Your promotion? Gone. Your VP track? Destroyed. Adrian's career? Finished. His marriage? Probably over. I sent Catherine everything she needs for her own divorce." "You told Catherine?" Vanessa's voice was horrified. "She deserved to know, just like I deserve to know. But unlike you, I believe in honesty. You've destroyed everything." "No, Marcus interrupted. You destroyed everything. I just made sure there were consequences. You wanted to time your divorce strategically? I beat you to it. You wanted to maximize your settlement? I documented every dollar you stole. You wanted to keep your career intact? I made sure your company knows exactly what you did to get promoted. I'll fight this." "With what?" "Everything I sent to Stratton, to my attorney, to Catherine. It's all documented fact. Your own words, your own messages. You planned this betrayal for months and documented every step. You destroyed yourself, Vanessa. I just compiled the evidence." There was a long silence. When Vanessa spoke again, her voice was small, broken. "What happens now? Now, you deal with the consequences of your choices. The divorce will be fast because I have proof of adultery. The court will see the evidence of financial manipulation. You'll lose more than you ever planned to take. I I could tell them you access my messages without permission. Go ahead, Marcus said. Tell them you left your iPad unlocked in the home you share with your husband, and I read messages that documented theft from our joint accounts and an affair with your boss. See how that plays in court. Marcus, please. We were married 7 years. That has to count for something. It did count for something, Marcus replied. It counted for enough that I gave you everything. My trust, my support, my love. And you turned it into a tactical advantage to exploit before discarding me. I loved you. No, you love what I provided. Stability. Financial contribution. The illusion of a good marriage while you built something else. But you never loved me, Vanessa. If you had, you wouldn't have described keeping me ignorant as almost too easy. Another long silence. You didn't know I was coming that night, Marcus said finally. And by the time you realized what you'd lost, it was already over. He hung up. Marcus sat in the coffee shop staring at his phone. His hands trembled slightly, the adrenaline finally catching up with him. But it was done. Everything he'd planned, everything he'd documented, had been executed perfectly. His phone buzzed. His attorney, got your documentation. This is one of the strongest adultery cases I've seen. Their affair is beyond dispute. The financial manipulation gives us excellent grounds for asset protection. Can you come to the office? We need to discuss protective orders and temporary restraining orders on the joint accounts. Marcus typed back. On my way. Another buzz. Derek, holy shit, man. My contact at Stratton says the board is convening an emergency meeting. Adrian's being forced to resign. Vanessa's suspension might become termination. This is massive. You okay? Marcus replied, I am okay. Thanks for everything. One more message. Adrian Cole. Mr. Hale, I received your email. I need to meet with you. There are things about Adrian's history you should know. I'm filing for divorce today. My attorney will be in touch. Thank you for telling me the truth. Marcus closed his laptop and walked to his car. The December afternoon was cold, the Dallas skyline sharp against a gray sky. He felt hollowed out, exhausted, grieving, angry, relieved, vindicated all at once. Vanessa had wanted to control the narrative, time everything perfectly, maximize her advantage. She treated their marriage like a business transaction to be optimized before termination. But she'd made one critical miscalculation. She'd underestimated the man she'd married. The quiet, supportive husband she'd dismissed as sweet but financially naive had systematically documented her betrayal, assembled an airtight case, and executed a strategy that destroyed everything she'd been building on lies. She'd lost her career. She'd lost her promotion. She'd lost her relationship with Adrian. She'd lost the strategic divorce she'd been planning. She'd lost control of the narrative. And she'd lost it all in a single morning, blindsided and powerless to stop it. Marcus started his car and drove toward his attorney's office. The marriage was over. The life he'd built with Vanessa was destroyed. But unlike her, he'd walk away with his integrity intact, his finances protected, and the knowledge that he'd faced betrayal with strategy rather than rage.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Subscribe, like, and click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.